Hello. Hello, you beautiful soul. So I had a message come through yesterday whenever I was sitting with Spirit about contrast, right? And I actually got to sit in this situation to have this conversation with Spirit because I my car was in the shop, right? And I wanted to go grab a coffee. So I walked, um, like just down the street to the corner store to get my coffee, and it was dark outside, and the sun was thinking about coming up, but wasn't quite there, you know? So whenever I got home, I sat on the front porch and just watched those first tiny little rays of light, you know, beginning to paint a color in the sky, right? And I love contrast, okay? I love contrast. I love abstract art and abstract thoughts and all these things. So it's really, really easy for me to appreciate the contrast, right? And so I'm sitting here and I'm watching, I'm like, wow, as the sky gets, a little bit brighter, the trees still look dark, you know? And whatever landscape you have, whatever things that are, you know, in front of the sky, between you and the sky, they seem dark, you know? And it's really cool looking. Like, who doesn't like a good uh, sunset scene or sunrise scene, you know? Like, we all love that. Those hues of color in the background, and then the silhouettes of the trees and, all that stuff. It is fantastic, truly. So this message was for someone who either really, really appreciates contrast, really should learn to appreciate contrast, or maybe you are the contrast. So either way, um, the first example that came to mind was like whenever you see that one person in the crowd that is totally different, like going completely against the grain, completely against what the mainstream is doing, you know. Um, I love when I go places and everybody seems to be dressed basic, and then you see that one person that is just like really expressing their personality um, outwardly with their appearance, and it's just so fun. It offers such this delicious contrast, and it's so appreciated, right? So if you are the contrast, just know that you're appreciated and you're seen, okay? Yes, maybe some people don't appreciate it, but there are many of us that do, right? So there was something coming through. Let me see what I wrote down. The one who sees beauty in the pain sees the contrast as an opportunity to appreciate the light and the dark, right? You have an opportunity to see the pain, see the suffering, see the darkness as contrast to the joy and the bliss and the peace and all of these feelings that we really enjoy sitting in. But Spirit, really wanted me to help somebody, right? Because a lot of us really enjoy contrast, but there are some people who struggle with it, right? And it's really a matter of us needing both, here in this reality. Like, there is duality here, and there's up and down and this and that. All these things, right? It's a duality, but it's all part of the same thing, right? We can't really truly appreciate all of the wonderful things if we don't understand, the things that hurt. So what is this here? What is that, right? This reality is based on contrast and opposing experiences, and it's a necessary part of this process and cycle, right? Just like there's day and night. And, it's duality. it's it's polar opposites. I mean, it just is. That's what it is here. And once you begin to see that as a gift, right, it changes the way that you view contrast, right? So I had my boy wants to go jump. I had a message come through about even contrast within bliss, right? And this is actually a perfect example because my son just came through and wants to go jump on the trampoline, right? So, which obviously I'm not being still, so this isn't completely applied, but it does in a way, okay? So contrast and bliss, right? So a still elder, 555 as I'm saying this, watching the children run and play, right? For me, being a mom, I love to play with my kids, but I also really, really enjoy just sitting here and watching them, And it's like I sit in my bliss. I'm so blissed out just getting to be here and witness my children have fun and entertain themselves and just be expressions of creation. And they are also experiencing their own bliss in that same moment, right? So it's like contrasting experiences, but still the same bliss, right? So synchronicities. And that one over there, that boy is my one that started it all for me. My first one, my first victim. But okay, to move on. So then, Spirit reminded me about contrast and pain even, right? And reminded me of that one's birth, actually. That one right there, his birth. And my first three I had, all natural. The last two were C-section because they were twins and they were all acting crazy. But, with him, I had a water labor and it was long and hard. It was my first. I had no freaking idea what I was doing and was scared, but didn't have any medicine or anything like that and just went 14 hours of labor with him, and it was extremely extremely painful, and if you're a mother, what labor can be. But I was in physical pain, right? But his father was in emotional and mental pain and turmoil because he had to sit there and watch me in physical pain and not be able to do anything but to watch. And he was having a really hard time detaching, and just observing, right? So we were contrasting each other in experience, but we were both in a lot of pain, and he did later admit to me that he had to remove himself from the room at least once and just cried, just cried and cried and cried. He saw me crying in physical pain and he removed himself so he could go cry and to release his emotional and mental pain that he was experiencing. And in that same moment, we were both in pain, and again, contrast. And contrast is such a necessary part of this experience, and it is something that should be appreciated. So I wrote down some other things. Let's see. Training. I wrote down training for that. There's something about training. Holding space for yourself is key. I wrote down something else that first didn't really make sense to me. I'm going to say it out loud and then maybe it'll make sense. So I wrote down sitting in bliss and pain. You have access to these feelings. The pain can fuel the bliss if you allow yourself to appreciate the pain. I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Yes. Right. Like, yes, we can go back and think about our pain, and sit in bliss and appreciate the lessons in the experience, right? the most important thing about contrast is appreciating it, yes, right? But the thing that shifts your whole perspective, I think that's why I wrote down perspective, is when you realize that these opposing ends, right? Two ends of the stick, it's all the same stick. It's all the same stick, right? Your light side and your dark side, right? Your higher self, your ego. It's all a part of the same stick. It just is. So if you're not appreciating the contrast, you're not appreciating the whole of people, places, and things. And it all should be appreciated because it's all here communicating something to us, a lesson. So, anyways, there's that. I love you guys so much. And if you made it to the end, make sure to hit the like button. If you feel stuck or stagnant in any way, you want to book with me, I can read, channel, do Reiki. Also, just hold Reiki space. I do that too sometimes. People will book with me, and I'll just sit and hold Reiki space for them to express themselves and just have a conversation with somebody that gets it. You know? So, anyways, I love you so much. You're amazing, and you're beautiful, and you're needed, and I appreciate you.